Okay, we want to welcome Paul Braterrio. He has lectured across the world for over 20 years. 9 years ago, he set out to educate the world on the vast benefits of molecular hydrogen dissolved in drinking water. His message has focused on critical role of molecular hydrogen to reduce oxidative stress and inflammation. His lecture presents the causal problem and solutions through science studies. He developed the eco-hydrogen enriched water system as well as other products to modulate immune function. And one thing that's cool is you've been on vast majority of like TV and
The Truth About Cancer with Ty Bollinger and different like that.
and you've not only spoken here in the US, but you've also spoken in Germany and Switzerland and all over the world. So that's pretty impressive. So Paul works diligently to educate individuals on how to prevent disease and so they no longer suffer. Paul's greatest joy comes from serving others. He is passionate about the preventative of pathologies. He found Synergy Science and developed a full line of products focused on detoxification, immune boost, and gut recovery. There's a lot of big words in there.
Hopefully it sounds okay when she edits it. No. So, hey, we do want to welcome him, and we appreciate Paul. He is, him and his company are also one of our sponsors for the Be Healthy Utah 2020 conference. So thank you very much for being on board and seeing the vision of what we're trying to accomplish as well. So tell us a little bit about this hydrogenated water and what got you into, okay, hey, we're going to change the water system and that's what's going to change our health.
Well, it started 15 years ago with my queen, my wife, Jacqueline. She had a lot of issues, menstrual cycle issues, gynecological, but also thyroid issues, anemia, what have you. And so in my scope of practice at the time, I really was focusing on diabetic foot and ankle.
Because you are a naturopath, correct?
Yeah, I am. And then I'm a podorthist as well. So before I became a naturopath, I was a podorthist. And so that's a foot specialist for those diabetic foot and ankle issues. Oh. And what we focus on was preventing decubitus ulcers and amputations. So that was my entire focus. I was an adjunct faculty member at Oklahoma State University and St. Petersburg College and used to teach on epidemiology and diabetes and what have you. So in that process, I founded two companies that manufactured shoes and orthotics so that we would prevent amputations. So that's what I did for many years, and we sold to chiropractors and podiatrists and what have you.
And that's what you thought was your kind of your mission and your vision of what you were going to do for the rest of your life?
Well, not for the rest of my life, but definitely it was what I was doing. And I was passionate about preventing decubitus ulcers and amputations because they give people 5 years to live with one amputation, and a second amputation, which is quite often reoccurring, you give 1 year to live. And so it was really about morbidity and wanting to prevent death. But when I learned two things, when I saw with my own eyes the fact that we could take someone with diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes mellitus, and give them water with hydrogen in it. And within 3 to 5 days, I was seeing a vast majority, not 100%, but a vast majority of the individuals, their blood glucose levels were normalizing within 3 to 5 days. And it was kind of freaking me out a little bit because I'm like, what the heck's going on? Water doesn't do that. You don't give water to people with a disease and all of a sudden.
What made you think of that? Like, what made you, like, did you see an article? Did you have someone bring it into you and ask you a question? Do you know what actually started that process of actually trying that?
Well, I had someone telling me that they had heard about people in Japan that had used these technologies and that diabetes and cancer and all kinds of disease models were regulated or were affected positively. And so I'm like, I can't find any studies on it, but I'm going to try it. Well, what does it hurt to give someone some water?
Exactly.
So I gave some people some water, and I was like, holy cow. Within the first day, in most cases, I saw regulation of blood glucose levels. That was the holy grail for me because I was like, whoa. I mean, shoes are great and orthotics are great and helping spread pressure on the plantar surface so we don't have, ulcers and capillary closure and all this fun stuff. But if we can change the pathology, now we've affected the human being. And I have always been passionate about prevention of pathology, because once you get a disease, it's a lot harder to manage that individual, rather than if we prevent the disease, it's far better, right? So I was very passionate about that. But at the same time, I saw my wife who had thyroid issues. She was anemic, highly anemic. And I would notice when she would drink the water and she would go to the gynecologist to have her blood test, her hematocrit and her hemoglobin levels and all this were perfect. But if she wouldn't drink the water before, she'd be highly anemic. And so that was like the first huge example I had of, holy cow, this is a significant difference. She drinks 20 ounces of water and goes for a blood test, and her levels are 11 on her hematocrit, and her hemoglobin levels, really her iron levels were 11. But if she doesn't, she was a 7. That's a significant difference in iron levels. In other words, she shouldn't be getting out of bed if she's a 7, right? You shouldn't be able to function. So the doctors themselves were like, what on earth is going on with you? You were a 7, this month you're 11. And I told her, don't drink the water next time again when you go to get your blood test, and you'll be a 7 again. You're really going to freak these doctors out, because they're going to be like, what the heck happened? Like, how do you go from a 7 to 11 and back to a 7 in a 90-day cycle? Like, this is impossible. You cannot move iron levels that fast. And so basically she then told the doctor, well, my husband has this water system, and I drank the water in the middle and I didn't drink it on the end, the other two. And that's what's happening. And he's like, holy cow, because I've never seen this before. But he goes, that explains why you're walking around. You drink this water every day? And she's like, yeah. He's like, okay, then that's why you're getting out of bed. That's why you're functioning as a human being, is because you have this water. So, you know, we started looking at other things. We started seeing other benefits for her. And again, this was 15 years ago. We now have 700 studies showing the therapeutic effects with 170 human disease models. And the science is solid now. We have 45 double-blind human studies. But back then, I had nothing to go by other than a 15-year human trial that was done in Japan. And after that human trial, all that those human trials proved was it cured improper fermentation or improper digestion. And so it cured digestive disorders. And so that's why they made it a medical device back in 1965 in Japan. They made these electrolysis water machines a medical device. Well, they started using them in hospitals because it stopped improper fermentation in the gut. It really helped a lot of issues. Well, once they started using it, there was not studies done, but there was documentation where there were individuals with cancer, diabetes, stuff like this that were being helped as well. So no one could tell me the mechanism, but I wanted to try it. And so I started giving it to individuals. I had no idea why it was helping or what was going on, but I was understanding that it was helping people. And so from anecdotal evidence, I had tons of that, but actual scientific studies I didn't have yet until 2009. And the whole world was thinking it's alkaline water, right? It's alkaline, it's alkaline.
Like you hear a lot about alkaline water. And so did you start out by doing alkaline water, or did you just jump right into hydrogen water?
No. It was that was all there was. There was no such thing as hydrogen water. No one knew anything about it. We started selling alkaline water machines because I saw all the patients helped. I saw my wife help. Well, so here's the deal. I never accepted or believed that the pH of water could do anything for the body. I mean, we know anyone with 3 brain cells knows there's no way possible that changing pH of water can affect the human body, period. And now we know that through scientific study. But back then, 15 years ago, I didn't believe it for a second. However, there was some mechanism in the water that was helping people, and I didn't know what that was yet. And so the fact that it was also higher pH didn't matter to me, because I knew it was being buffered in the stomach. I knew
that's what I've always said. It never made sense, because it's like your stomach's acid. It's how's that making a difference? Yeah.
Right. So, and here's the deal. I used to show people, look, it's a pH 9.5. But what happens when I put 3 drops of lemon juice in it? It plummets. So I'm sorry, stomach acid is far more powerful
Right.
than lemon juice. So there's no way that the pH was the answer, but that's what everybody was saying. Everyone and their mother, alkaline, alkaline, alkaline. And I'm like, come on. You're not changing blood pH. That happens through breath, right? So you could breathe one more time a minute and change your blood pH far more than drinking water. Come on. And I was telling people to stop it. But again, I could not deny that there were benefits coming from the water. We just didn't know what the mechanisms were yet. So in 2008, I had a PhD chemist that worked for me with my silicone gel manufacturing company. And I said to him, I said, Chris, do me a favor. Here's 35 papers that all these people have written over the years that supposedly tell us why alkaline water is best for people. I said, I don't believe these. I think they're all nonsense. Can you read them? Because he had a PhD in water chemistry from Emory University, right? And so I said, do me a favor, read this mess and tell me what you think. So he was staying at my house. He worked with me, and he was staying at my house. He's from Delaware, and he would come down every few weeks, and he'd stay for a couple of days. So anyways, he came back the next morning. He goes, no, you're exactly right. All this is nonsense. Every single bit of this is completely opposite of water chemistry that I learned in my PhD. However, there's this one study, and I think it holds your answer that you're looking for, what the mechanism is. He goes, buried in the middle of this is one chart, and it shows this little diagram, and on it, it says DH. And I said, DH? And he said, dissolved hydrogen. And in this one study of all these papers, he said, they're showing that the dissolved hydrogen is what they believe the mechanism is. And immediately I felt the spirit. And I'm just like, I immediately knew that was true. I had already been feeling like it was hydrogen because there were bubbles in that water all the time. And people were saying it was oxygen. And I'm like, we're not fish. If it's oxygen, it's not going to help us because drinking water, we don't have gills. We're not going to be able to get oxygen out of water. That doesn't make any sense. It's hydrogen. That's what we're releasing in electrolysis. So what does the hydrogen have to do? And so sure enough, this was the first study, and this was 2008, 2009, where all of a sudden it was like the aha moment. So I then went into focusing completely on hydrogen, forgetting pH, and completely going into everything I could find on hydrogen. And basically now, this is years later, obviously, from when I started lecturing about hydrogen, but we now know for a fact through many, many scientific studies what hydrogen does, what its roles are with enzyme action in the body, biomolecules. There's just so many things we know now and understand now about hydrogen gas. And we need to first start by saying the creator of our bodies created a hydrogen generator, and that's our gut. When we ferment food, we produce hydrogen gas. And if people's guts were working correctly, then we would produce between 10 and 12 liters of hydrogen gas per day that will go into the body and regulate all kinds of biomolecules, all kinds of pathways. The problem is most people have guts that are dysfunctioning, not functioning properly. So you don't have the hydrogen gas being produced. They also may not be eating foods that are broken down into short chain fatty acids, medium chain fatty acids, fiber rich foods. A lot of people are eating packaged foods and things that and they don't have the proper bacteria, the anaerobic microflora in the gut that will actually convert beneficial fibers or water soluble fibers into hydrogen, methane, the other gases that make up flatulence, right? So this is really what we first need to understand, is that I didn't create hydrogen. I know that shocks you. I didn't create hydrogen. And I also am not really doing much other than mimicking what the body should be doing. And that's really what this product is about. And so when people have a gut that's not functioning, by us providing them a vehicle through water to get hydrogen gas into the body, immediately we begin regulating neurologic functions. We begin regulating lactate, enzyme action in the body, so we don't have lactate buildup in the muscle for athletes, and we don't have neurologic issues because of lack of ghrelin secretions. And there's just so many things that hydrogen immediately begins to do with hydroxyl radicals, which is the most cytotoxic or cell damaging radical in the human body, in the mitochondrial respiratory chain. There's just so many places we can go and understand what hydrogen is supposed to be doing, including hydrochloric acid in the stomach, right? Requires hydrogen. So this is what we're really doing, is mimicking the human body. And that's one of the major things that the water coming out of the Echo machine does, is dissolve hydrogen gas without changing the pH of the water at all. That's the first and foremost thing that it does after of course, we filter the water. The other thing that we do is we change the electrical potential of the water itself from a positive electrical charge to a negative electrical charge. This is critical because we know through scientific study, that until we get the epithelial tissue of the intestinal tract, or the lining of the intestinal tract, to a negative 300 millivolts, negative 400 millivolts, we can't grow good bacteria in the gut. A lot of people are, taking probiotics. It's not doing anything if the tissue is not prepared with the right electrical potential to become the terrain that these bacteria want to live in. And so you can throw probiotics at people all day long, but if they're not hydrated properly and they don't have the proper terrain in the gut, these bacteria are not going to live there. It's just, you're just throwing money down the toilet. And
so let me ask you a couple of questions if I can.
Yeah.
So when you drink hydrogenated water,
Yeah.
you get it from, you've created what is called an ecosystem, right? And that's
Right.
what hydrogenates the water, and it's also
Right.
a filtering system. So when you drink that, as it passes through the system, it doesn't dehydrogenate along the way before it gets to the intestines?
No, because you've dissolved gas in the water.
Okay.
So you're not, I mean, if you're doing jumping jacks while you're drinking, you might dislodge some hydrogen. Yes.
So it's not breaking down and not being effective. So that, kind of like you were talking
with
about
the alkaline water.
like the alkaline water, how, all that kind of stuff. So I
Right.
just have a question.
Right.
And the other thing, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
The other thing I was wondering, with the hydrogenated water, you've kind of come up with this ecosystem. Are there copycats out there as well? Or are you kind of the lone wolf in this system that's trying to educate the public on it?
Okay, so everyone's a copycat, but they haven't produced a hydrogen machine. They just say they do because they sell alkaline water machines, and then they say it has hydrogen in it,
right.
Which is a big disservice to the population. Because yes, when the machines are brand spanking new, they might, not all alkaline water machines produce dissolved hydrogen. Some do. The problem is, if we understand electrolysis, it's off the cathode that we have hydrogen coming off. But naturally in alkaline water machines, we have mineral buildup because the cathode is negatively charged and the minerals are positively charged, and they have an affinity to one another. So if we get mineral buildup on the cathode inside the electrolysis chamber, then we can no longer dissolve hydrogen because the hydrogen bubbles are coalescing. They're grouping together and getting too large to be able to dissolve into liquid. And so they just go right out to atmosphere. And so most of the machines on the market, when they're brand new and for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks maximum, these people are having wonderful benefits like hydrogen should give them. And then boom, the hydrogen dissolvability is gone. And
now they're just getting the alkaline water.
Right. And so then it's not much of a benefit. So this is the big story, is we created a hydrogen module that dissolves hydrogen into water, and it has nothing to do with changing pH. In fact, we can't change the pH in our chamber that we have developed. We can't. We also do not need minerals. Alkaline water machines require mineral content for conductivity in the electrolysis chamber to be able to have the reaction and create hydrogen. We do not, because we use proton exchange membranes. So we create our own conductivity if we need. Even if you run reverse osmosis or distilled water, which we recommend people do with our machines if they want the cleanest water, then they'll still have hydrogen. But let's get back to your question about if the dissolved hydrogen will come out of a dissolved state and how quickly. So when we would drink, like let's say I take a bottle like this and I drink the water, as soon as it hits my stomach with dissolved hydrogen gas, immediately, I mean, we're talking 2 minutes maximum. But it happens before that. We selectively stimulate gastric ghrelin. Most people don't know what ghrelin is. They know what leptin is, right? But they don't know what ghrelin is. So ghrelin is a master hormone. Leptin is a master hormone, and they work in partnership. Leptin tells you to stop eating. Ghrelin is what we call the hunger hormone. Not because it makes you hungry. It's because when you are hungry, the body is supposed to secrete gastric ghrelin, and it regulates every organ in the human body to prepare it for digestion. It actually goes, the ghrelin secretions go right to the hippocampus, hypothalamus, and brainstem to increase cognitive function, right? So the interesting thing is, from the first second you drink hydrogen water, it hits the stomach and it's already affecting the brain. And we can do brain mapping. We can do all these beautiful things to show that within 2 to 3 minutes of drinking the water, you have completely changed plasticity, normalization of the brain, left body, left side, right side, and we've changed function. A lot of children with autism, we now know, have low ghrelin secretion levels because ghrelin should be secreted in the stomach and the small intestine. But because the gut is damaged, they can't secrete ghrelin properly. So one of the major benefits for bipolar schizophrenia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and autism and things like this is ghrelin secretions, because within an hour of drinking the water, you can see distinct differences in cognitive function with these individuals. So it's a joy to see that. It's amazing. You know, I've had people with tremors, and within 10 minutes, their hands almost still after they have drank just 8 ounces of hydrogen water. It's amazing to watch. It'll bring you to tears the first time you see it happen to you. But these are the kind of things that you see. So imagine it's going in the stomach. Immediately, you're changing the brain. Then what's going to happen? It's going to go through the duodenum or the duodenum into the small intestine. That's where you would want the hydrogen to come out. You want the water to absorb into the small intestine, because that's where water absorbs anyways, not in the stomach, obviously. It goes in the small intestine. And we want the hydrogen gas to get into the body at the same time through the intestinal wall, which is where it should be going, because that's where you would create farts, right? Is right in the intestines. And hydrogen would go right into the body from there. So this is the process. Once it's in the body, we want it coming out of the water. We want it going into the body to regulate. And what we call hydrogen is a signal modulator. That's really where the power of hydrogen. Hydrogen itself is not really doing a lot. Its signal, though, is telling all kinds of pathways and enzymes and stuff to work properly. That's how hydrogen works. It's a signal modulator.
So if you decide, if you're taking this hydrogenated water, what would kind of be like the protocol? Would you just have it all the time whenever you drink water? Or would you just have it like once a day? And how long is if you started to have it, would you have it for the rest of your life to where our guts are messed up so much? Or is it, you just do it until your gut is feeling better? What is kind of the protocol for people when they start this?
Very good question. It really becomes the rest of your life kind of thing. You can
always enhance your gut function and your brain function.
That's right. I mean, no one says I want to be dumber. So the reality is this.
I don't know. We do have some politicians out there. No, sorry.
Well, they don't say it. They just do it. But yeah. But here's the deal. In most of these studies, like the diabetes study, it was a 8-week study. All they did was give these individuals one 900 milliliter bottle of hydrogen water per day. And literally 80% of the individuals with diabetes were normalized.
Okay, I'm an American, so I don't know how much 900 milliliters is. Is that like 32
It's
ounces?
almost 1,600.
16
It's almost 16 ounces.
Okay, 16 ounces.
So, yeah, so just a normal bottle of water, right? But
Okay.
the reality is they only got it once a day. So you could consider that a dose. One half a part per million in a 16-ounce bottle would be considered therapeutic, right? Now, our machine produces double that, 1 part per million, so you're fine. And if you had 1 dose per day, great, it's going to benefit you. If you did it twice a day, wonderful. 3 times a day, wonderful. If you actually did 3 times a day, you would mimic your digestive process, right? Because you would typically eat 3 times a day. Therefore, you would ferment food 3 times a day, and you would create flatulence 3 times a day. That would get hydrogen into your system. So what we do know is that intermittent exposure is best. We would not want to be constantly drinking the water every second of every day or put an IV in our arm, because then the body will kind of like disregard the hydrogen. It's too much.
Right.
What we need to have is intermittent exposure, and this is pretty normal. I think most people understand the value of an intermittent exposure. You're going to give it to the body, let it do its work. And here's what we know about hydrogen. Anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, the actual hydrogen gas is gone out of your body. You have breathed it out anyways. The signal modulation and the effects thereby will linger 3 to 5 days. So depending on which pathway is modulated, depending on which enzyme action, depending on biomolecules, those actions will linger for 3 to 5 days. But the hydrogen gas itself is breathed out already within 15 minutes to an hour. So we need to understand it's not about pummeling ourselves with hydrogen. We just need the presence of hydrogen in our body on a daily basis so that it regulates the systems it needs to regulate. We don't need to be over concerned about concentration. There's some companies out there that are like 9 parts per million, and I'm like, how stupid. You're never going to use 9 parts per million. And through study, we know that 0.1, a tenth of a part per million, can signal what? Ghrelin secretions, which helps neurologic disorders. So all we need is the tiniest amount of hydrogen in the stomach to signal ghrelin secretions, which is going to increase brain function. The only thing I've ever seen that you could consider dose dependent is rheumatoid arthritis. But yes, you could give someone all in one day a ton of hydrogen, or you could spread it out over a week and have the same effect. And so what we find through the studies is that not only was the joint repaired, but the oxidative stress, which is what causes the rheumatoid arthritis, was gone. And so the damage was repaired as well. There was no reoccurrence of RA after they stopped drinking in the washout period.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
And that's only because you provided the hydrogen, so then your body can work the way that it needs to.
Correct. And it's really about oxidative stress. When we look at all disease, the cause of all disease is oxidative stress and inflammation. Hydrogen is excellent at reducing oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. And so
can I ask you a couple of questions? Just
yeah.
So number one, so they use your machine, they pour the water out, and now you have a glass of hydrogenated water. How long does that last as hydrogenated water before the gases evaporate or whatever? Is it like if it's sealed, it would last 2 days in the fridge, or is it only last a day in the fridge, or it only lasts for like 20 minutes kind of thing?
Good question. So if you had a glass like this, really small, right? Probably 4 ounces or so, and you filled that and it's obviously open to the environment, you might have 3 to 5 hours before you hit half-life.
Okay.
So you've lost half the hydrogen. Still would be therapeutic, but you've lost a lot of the hydrogen. If we take a bottle like this, or I don't know, any kind of bottle that you have, something like this that's got a lid on it.
Has a lid and everything, that's sealed, and it's a good packet.
Right. When you fill this up, you need to make sure there's no airspace in the top. And if you do that, then you'll lose roughly 0.1 parts per million per day for 24-hour period. So let's pretend we had a gallon milk jug or these water bottles you can buy. Around here, Harmon's has them, but most grocery stores or other stores, you can buy these gallon dairy containers that you can fill with water. And we have a lot of places that sell the water by the gallon to let people try it.
Right.
So if you fill it up all the way with no airspace and then cap it, is you have roughly 10 days before you've lost all the hydrogen.
So yeah. So if someone goes and purchases it somewhere, it's going to last. If they have it sealed and everything, it's going to last throughout the week for them to be able to drink it.
Correct. Yeah. And so, once they open it and start drinking it, they'll need to drink it within a couple of days. And that's pretty typical. I mean, it's only a gallon of water, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we just from a hydration perspective, we should be drinking half our body weight in ounces per day.
Right.
Just to be hydrated appropriately, right? So, that's important. We don't need to drink half our body weight in hydrogenated water. We need to drink half our body weight in clean water that's been filtered. So on our machine, you can turn off hydrogen production or turn it back on, but it is filtering the water. It's removing pesticides like glyphosate and heavy metals, pharmaceuticals, chlorine, chloramines. We have a separate external filter that removes fluoride if people want to do that. But the most critical thing to do with water is to clean it, to remove the contaminants that are in there. And then we want to have hydrogen in that water so that we can have the benefits from that. That's what the machine does. Our particular machine is the only one in the world that after that, we can actually put frequencies into the water, what we call the synergy resonance technology. We have a frequency generator using quantum entanglement where people can send frequency of their eyes, liver, kidney, pancreas, gallbladder, whatever, parasite elimination. We have a ton
so you can put in a homeopathic, like a remedy kind of thing at the same time.
Yeah, we don't call it a homeopathic, but it is a formula it's frequencies. It's a number of things, but
right. Gotcha.
It's like rife on steroids, that's for sure. But the reality is we've had people that put it on parasite elimination an hour later in the bathroom eliminating parasites. And they're like, holy cow, what the heck was that? And it's just water. Again, all she drank was 2 of these.
Mm-hmm.
And an hour later, that was actually at the Master Circle conference in Georgia just last year. We had a lady that had parasites. She was at the event attending.
And that's something extra you can put on to it if you want to, right?
Well, it's already inside the machine. You have to register that device though to have it work.
Gotcha.
And people will get 30 days at no charge, and after that, they need to pay $19.95 a month to have access. But what's nice about it is they can go on their phone or tablet and change what formula they want anytime they want. So, maybe they can go and do liver and then an hour later do pancreas and then gallbladder and adrenals and, whatever they want to kind of help their system out and do whatever they want to do, eyes and lungs and heart and cardiovascular, whatever you want to do. Telomeres, might be cool. But these are the kind of things that we do that no other company in the world does. And we actually have the only true hydrogen machine. And what I mean by that is we don't change the pH of water. It's not an alkaline machine that we're calling a hydrogen machine.
Right.
It's actually a hydrogen machine that's guaranteed to always produce at least 0.5 parts per million of hydrogen, which is considered therapeutic.
Well, Paul, we want to thank you. Our time's come to an end, but first of all, tell the people that are listening how they can find out more information, your website, any information on that, and then the price of the machine. And we actually didn't talk about this, so sorry to put you on the spot here, but if you want to give them a little bit of a deal or something, if they purchase it, they can use like the Be Healthy Utah code or something like that, so that they can get a little bit of a discount. Yeah, so great thing. Go to our website is synergyscience.com. So SYNERGY and then science.com. If you go there, then
I think there's a place where you can put a coupon code in, and if you put Be Healthy Utah, we'll make sure that it gets you off the Echo H2, for example. It's going to show $25.95. If you put Be Healthy Utah in, you'll get it for $22.95. So it's a $300
thank you.
discount. Yeah. So that'll be wonderful. There's even financing on there that they can go through, but because of you, they'll get a nice discount on anything they purchase from us. But that'll be the way to do it, is to put Be Healthy Utah. We can also make you a link that you guys could add to this to make it easy for people.
Oh,
but
yeah, awesome. Let's do that.
yeah, but that's what we can do to help them and make sure we save them money for watching.
That's great. No, thank you very much. And what you've done, I mean, it's way cool, because you just came from something that you didn't have any idea. You researched it, you figured it out, you created, and now it's helping people throughout the world. So that's way to go for you. Good job, and good job for your company and doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
All right. We will talk to you later, Paul, and we're excited to have you at our conference on April 17th and 18th.
You'll be one of our speakers as well there. So please come to that as well.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
Okay, bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.